Welcome to the platform where the stories weigh a ton. This is where some of the MHSPLA's best tell their stories about what it takes to build themselves and their teams under the bar. I'm your co-host, Chris Whitaker. We're glad you're here. Hey, if you're enjoying this show, please make sure you subscribe and follow and leave a review on all major podcast hosts, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon Music, and many more. This support helps us to continue to grow the show and bring the conversations that you want to hear right here on the platform. If you'd like to give us feedback or suggest a guest or topic for the show, please email info@mhspla.com and we'll get back to you. Today's episode is episode number 14, and this is featuring part 2 of our interview with powerlifter and longtime MHSPLA figure, Denny Reinhart. In part 1, Denny took us through his own journey through teaching football, powerlifting, and how they built the Montrose program and his philosophy on coaching lifters the right way. In part 2, Denny goes into some of the bigger conversations of the sport today in the growing wave of female participation in powerlifting and the ongoing debate around drug testing at meets and what he considers the hardest thing to actually coach. We close it out with the rapid fire round, getting Denny's quick takes on lifting, coaching, and everything in between. Ladies and gentlemen, step up. The bar's loaded for episode 14, part 2 with Denny Reinhart. Hit the intro music.
Welcome to the platform where the stories weigh a ton. Squat, bench, dead, we rise as one. Michigan's lifters, this is our home. Turn it up, feel that foam. This is the platform. Bus ride.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean it's no different than the drug testing argument, right? Like it's a distinct advantage that either everybody has that or nobody should have it, within the contest. You saw lots of changes within the MHSPLA during your time. What do you think of the surge of female athlete participation in the MHSPLA over the years?
I think it's awesome. Just the only thing that makes it difficult is running the meets, because you got so many male lifters and so many female lifters. That's the tough part, but I mean, that's a good problem to have. Obviously it's a problem though when trying to get to regional qualifiers and that, and you got to shut off entries for, certain reasons. I mean, that's hard, especially with the season being so condensed. I mean, you truly aren't going till after the first of the year, and then you're having a state meet, the first week in March?
Yeah.
So you've
Like 3
got
months.
not even, well, you got January and February and then your state meet. I mean, it's tough, and then obviously trying to fit it in. I know, obviously years ago, we kept the state meet up until like right before spring break, which gave kids a few more times. And then there was the times where, cheerleaders and wrestlers were exempt because they were always competing on Saturdays and this and that. So there's been changes, I think in both directions, but I mean, again, it's a good problem to have when you got too many people. Then it's a way of just figuring out how to get, those people involved.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think we talk about it all the time with the females. There's always that, the stigma of powerlifting, and that's what keeps some from trying it. But once they try it, they kind of get hooked into it for the girls. But I really believe, honestly, after we went raw totally, I felt like that's when the girls' influx started to grow steadily after that, because, I don't know. It probably wasn't overnight, but I just felt like the numbers started to get a little bit bigger, because now you're talking within the next 10 years, like we actually added a JV division for the girls, So, and, now we have a separate JV state meet, it wasn't like that before. The, those 2-day long weekends fitting in all that. I mean, those were hard weekends, but they were busy weekends. You held some of those state meets. What do you remember about those? Like, did your
Oh,
volunteers hate
obviously,
you?
obviously a lot of the, the ADFPA ones we held, and then obviously the MHPSL ones we held. I remember actually 1 year was probably the best year. I think it's probably like, I'd have to look back on it, '04, '05. We did it with Bendel. Jeff Sesky was at Bendel at the time, and we combined and ran the state meet at our place. He was responsible for one gym. I was responsible for the other gym, and it worked out great. And then we just, basically split everything. And so it was like at two different meets, but basically at the one site, and it worked out well. And then I remember the last state meet I think I actually held was in 17, I think. We ran again, the girls were just one division at that time. And we did the girls on a Friday afternoon, Friday night. And I think we had like 300 girls then. And then we ran the JV boys Saturday morning with another 300. And then we ran the varsity boys Saturday afternoon with about 250.
Yeah. And that was 2016, coach.
That's 16? Okay.
Yeah, because my oldest daughter, she was a sophomore. And so that was the last year with the girls were just one division. And I remember that.
Yep. And
You
that
know,
was,
my wife didn't have to leave work to stay there to watch her daughter lift, because my wife worked at Montrose for a lot of years. So yeah, that was a great state meet. That was a great experience then. So
and obviously at Situate like that, we had 10 platforms, and we had 30 judges, obviously, for Friday night, and 30 different ones for each session. And a lot of them were former national lifters and stuff like that. So quality, the judging was pretty well. Not, again, when you're trying to run a meet, and man, to get 30 quality judge, that's hard. I'm sorry, that's hard. Even though if you put them through training in that, a lot of these people, they don't want to turn somebody down on the squat. They
yeah,
just don't. And that's the hardest thing to judge. But I mean, that's got to be the strictest thing. Because
Mhm.
I always had the pet peeve of you're probably better off not trying to set a state record if you want to win the weight class. If you just stay below the state record, and then somebody tries for the state record, they get, usually three, well, again, we used to
Pretty good
do it,
judges.
the state judges, and they're going to judge you stricter versus than somebody that's right there. And so then this person makes a 30-pound jump, they don't get it. And so then you make the gain there, you make the gain in each lift, and all of a sudden you're actually the state champion just because the other person tried 3 different state records, which again is a difficult part.
Yeah.
But it is
And
hard
trying
getting
to
quality judging.
and trying to convince a kid not to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's another challenge too. So,
Mhm.
well, that's awesome.
I feel like we had one do that a few years ago, right? Where
Well, this past year there was 2 kids, and at matter of fact, it was one of Kevin Lang's lifters, the Ryan that won the scholarship for us this year. He was asking, you know, I'm like, well, you can attempt the state record weight, but you don't have to apply for it to be a state record. You know, if you just want to attempt it and not be a state record, you can do that weight and you won't get state record judges. That's the bottom line. Because if you were to go second at the same weight, it's not a state record anymore, and the state record judges leave, which
Right.
is which is always messed up. It's the same way. They should just stay seated there and make it fair, but that's not how it works. So, yeah, it's interesting how it works. Strategies, and we could probably talk about that a whole session, but um, I can't remember if you asked the last one or I did, Coach.
well, we asked him. Did we ask him about what changes he'd like to see?
Yeah, I guess that's what you did. Yeah.
Yeah. So
No, ask him. That
So yeah, but that one should be. Did we talk about that? No.
no, I don't think so.
Hey, I'm sorry, guys. I'm a
Oh,
little.
you know what?
I'm half asleep over here, Coach. I'm sorry.
No,
You're
you're
good.
good. We
He's
kind of drifted off. Well, we talked about the female participation, but like,
Mhm.
yeah, you did talk about that one. So What are some changes you think that the MHSPLA should entertain? You
Well,
know,
from my perspective, the number one thing I still think there's got to be some form of drug testing. Legit. I mean, you got it on all the sheets. Um, when was the last time there was actually a drug test? You know,
I'm
it's,
gonna guess back into the 90s.
no, there was. We drug tested at ours.
Okay.
In
Oh,
in
even
uh,
like that 2016
in the
one.
16 one, only drug tested two. I
Okay.
only drug tested two. Just to keep it on the thing because I didn't want to be called out on anything, and sent it in. Obviously, in the '90s, we had to test because it was all sanctioned.
Right.
I think some, and then we all know that over the years, the stories and whatever, and there's
Yeah.
been legit ones where we know, and we're not going to say names, obviously, that people have been on it, and then it's even so more prevalent now, with everybody taking hell their dad's TRT. I mean, gee, willikers. I mean, it's out there so prevalent. So I think some form of testing. Are we going to get anybody? Maybe, maybe not. But at least hey, at least we say we're drug testing. It's there. And like I said in the USPA, Adam said it's about $150 a drug test. Um,
Okay.
you know, if we, I'm just saying if you did four, okay, $600, or something, just something like that. And then I also think, with the way it's grown so much, just like in all sports, you have, different divisions, different size schools. You could almost run, two state meets, for like, Division 1, Division 2 schools, and another one for Division 3, Division 4 schools, and the same thing for the boys and the girls. Then that way you got more people competing, especially at the state meets. So they're limiting to, I don't know, what is it, 20 that get in for the varsity or whatever?
22. Yeah.
20, yeah, like that. Then you got Division 1, Division 2, 20 kids. Then if you did Division 3 to Division 4, another 20 kids, and then you could maybe even, like that, increase the numbers, and then you have that instead of, doing it
I
like
like
that.
that.
And it's just like you do, like in football. You got what, 8 divisions instead of 8, you go to 4.
Yeah. I
And
mean, when you think
at
about
least
it,
8.
we're the only sport in Michigan that only has one division.
And if you,
Everybody's in the same.
and then and then I mean, some people, well, it's watering it down, but again, I mean, do we want trying to get kids to compete, right?
Yeah.
Then that might adjust the regionals. Might be easier to get into regional. Okay, there's a Division 1, 2 regional at this place and a Division 3 and 4 regional at this place. So then in certain schools you have to go to certain ones, whatever. Just, I think that's a possibility. Obviously it'll
Oh,
take some work on it, but I mean, I think it can be done. So
yeah.
those will probably be the two biggest things. And then there's some people I've heard talking, whatever, and I I feel both. I ride the fence on this one. Is if you go to USP or USPLA or USAPL and all the different organizations, their raw is now they allow knee sleeves, and they basically say it for basically health purposes or training purposes. You know, I'll keep the knees straight and those sort of things. You know, um, and there, that's one. I don't know. I don't know where people stand on that one. I see both sides of that.
Sure.
It isn't as though it's like knee wraps like they used to be back in the day. Sleeves you just pull up and they're up. So,
Yeah.
but again, if you start doing that, then basically it changes all your records.
Yeah.
I mean, it would
Yeah.
because again, the sleeves help you. There's no doubt about it. They don't help as much as actual knee wraps, but again, is that you can't compare that to a kid who, did the ones without them. So
Yeah.
then you're starting everything over again. So I mean, you open up a can of worms.
Sure. Well, I mean, honestly, in my own personal opinion, I know that those do help and aid, but I think the safety concerns equal that out, to be honest, especially at our meets compared to like a USPA or USAPL. They're used to, at those meets, there's about 10 to 15 minutes max in between attempts. At our meets, there could be 40 minutes in between attempts at some of them because your weight class or your platform's so big. And I think like those knee sleeves help keep your knees a little warmer, it helps those kids along. But the one piece of equipment I think I would like to see us permit moving forward, at minimum, are the wrist wraps, because we're starting to see more low bar squatters, and the stress on their wrists when you low bar squat, and then, not everybody has great form on bench.
No,
And
yeah, that's one I didn't even think of. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I believe,
because the wrist wraps are fairly inexpensive, because I think that one of the other reasons we got rid of equipment is not everybody could afford it. So like, we don't want to maybe introduce something that starts making the sport super more expensive. But I don't know. That's something I've always thought about. Like, we allow them to tape their wrist. What's
yeah,
wrong with a $10 wrist wrap?
no,
They're
I
not that expensive.
I agree for that one.
Yeah. So no, I think that's great. Because we allow them to use lever belts, or, the only belt we don't allow is Velcro. And honestly, the Velcro belts nowadays are much better than they were 20 years ago, so I don't, that maybe that's something that we entertain too, because they're just better made. But I don't know. I'm a leather belt guy. I'm showing my age a little bit, I guess. But I don't know. What do you think, Coach Whitaker, on
No,
some of the equipment?
I'm a leather belt guy too. No, I agree. I think wrist wraps probably would be helpful, and they're not that expensive. I think knee sleeves we're getting into a bit of a
Yeah.
thing, with the
Yeah,
thickness of
new
that.
records. It's not like we haven't done it before, though, right, Denny?
True. True.
We got retired weight class records because we've changed some weight classes. We've got retired records because we don't know, but most likely those lifters, when we allowed equipped lifters, most likely most of those records were equipped lifters. But I mean,
They were.
I don't know how many of them were, or if it was all of them. And I know those records got to be somewhere. That's where I would like to get my hands on, so we can post them on the new website. I'm going to
The
look through the old website and see if the potentially
I'm
exists there.
I'm pretty sure on my school computer I got the results of the '07 meet at from Muskegon, and that was the
Muskegon.
year we did both. I'll have to double check and see if Ryan Hodges sent me both, or if he just sent me the raw ones. But I do know I got it on my computer.
Okay, that'd
I'll
be
have to
awesome if you
check
could
the
dig
website.
that stuff up.
But if we were to do one or the other, I would go more for the wrist straps than I would the sleeves.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I appreciate that. Coach, you got the next one?
Yeah, Coach, what's the biggest mistake you saw beginner powerlifters making in their first year of the sport?
The biggest mistake, um, going up too fast with the weight. They barely get, their workout and they barely get it. Then the next workout, they're throwing more weight on. And, I always, try to say, get the weight, but get it clean and make sure it's good before you move up. And one of them just want to go up too fast. And then, they're sacrificing depth on the squat, and stuff like that. Then we got to start super light, start from scratch. You start training high, it's hard to break that habit. And they want to go up too fast. And I think it's the biggest thing. They just go up too fast.
Okay, good. Going to the taper, Coach, as you got near the meets, and I don't know how you program them exactly, but like, what was your approach to the taper and peak week to ensure that the lifters, were fully recovered, but they weren't losing their nervous system sharpness? What was something that you used that was pretty helpful and successful?
Well, I always, with our kids when we were competing real heavy and everything like that, always did the same thing that I did when I competed, and also the same thing that I got from Russ. But I changed it a little bit. Russ, what he would do, and when he was there at Mount Morris, his kids all maxed out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the week of the meet. So they would squat on Monday, so they knew exactly what they could get. And then they did their bench and then their deadlift, and then he would hand them a piece of paper, and they would always, okay, if you got 400 pounds per se, they would open up 30 pounds below their best. So then it'd be 370. Then they have written down then 395. And then their third one would either be what they got or 5 pounds over. So they already knew what they were doing going into the meet. And they had that written down because if you had 30 kids everywhere, he couldn't coach all 30 kids. So they had it written on a piece of paper. They put it in there, whatever they had. That's how he used to do it. And I generally did that, but I never had our kids deadlift the week of the meet. We did it the week before and try to get a gauge of what it was. And then the squat, depending on how much weight they were handling, we would do it like the Friday before or that Monday, depending. And if it was that Friday before, then on Monday we would just do we would go the Monday, Tuesday stuff, just do our openers. Just do your opener, make sure we're good and safe with it and get the opener and then just do our supplements. And then Thursday, Friday, absolutely nothing. If anything, we would just do commands with just a bar or something like that to make sure they remember the commands because some of these kids would be first time lifters and they get all psyched up and ready to go and then they forget every command in the world and stuff like that and blow meats because of commands. So that's the kind of how we would do it or how we
Did
did it.
you ever blow a command as a lifter, coach?
Come on, never.
Because Coach Whitaker has.
No, I actually my biggest thing was I had a 500-pound bench turned down because I had my wrist wraps and I had the hook around my
The
thumb.
loop over your thumb.
Got to be off of it, and so I had a 500-pound bench turned down the one meet.
Isn't that silly? Because that did not help you get that weight.
I was like,
But
why
it's
you
the
turn
rule.
down just for that? Because that's the rule. But I get it. But yeah. But I also had another time not recently, but my one meet when I come out of retirement here about 3 years ago before I blew the shoulder out, I got away with it. I kept it on, completely forgot about it, kept it on, but I actually got it though.
Oh,
They
they
didn't
didn't
catch
catch you. That's awesome. All right,
Is that
good.
the meet you
Go ahead,
competed
Coach.
against Todd Miller in?
I competed against Todd Miller?
Did they compete
Yeah.
against each other, Chris? What did he tell us? They competed in the same meet.
He made it sound like you guys competed against each other, or you guys were in the same weight class.
Really?
But I don't know if it was that year or some other year. But I think Todd might have been alluding to the fact that you guys competed like 3 years ago, and that you guys were in the same weight class, but he was probably at a different meet, and he wanted us to let you know that he benched more than you. Probably for the first time ever is what he said,
No,
but
I didn't know that.
oh yeah. So what was it he did? Roughly like 360 something. And you were
I'll
just
look it
like,
up. I'll find it.
you were
again.
like 5 pounds under or something. I can't remember what it
Oh,
was.
because I know when I came back out of retirement there, I was down there, oh geez, somewhere near Kazoo, and I was in the 60 to 64 age division,
Yeah.
and I set the state record. It was only like a 363 or something like that down
Yeah.
there. And then I went to the national record. I dropped down to 198, and that's when I blew my shoulder out. And I got the national record for a while, and then it's been broken since.
Okay.
But that was in a full meet. I was competing in a full meet.
when you set the national record.
Yeah, at 198, and then I blew the shoulder out and had a reconstruction on it, and that was I think that was 2 years ago, and I'm slowly working myself back. But
All right.
I blew it out pretty bad.
So is there a future meet coming your way? I mean, because they got all these other age groups and divisions still.
I actually moved up up in an age division. I'm 65 to 69.
Ooh, nice.
So who knows? Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. Well, the days of pushing 500 are probably over, coach, but it doesn't mean that you can't still work hard and see where you can push your
Oh,
limits.
the 500 days are long gone. They're only
I
there. I only got them. I got videotape of that, and that's it, man. I'll never do that again.
Yeah, I gotcha. Um,
Yeah, I can't find that meet.
hey, you want to get to your question and then you can look it up some more.
Yeah, I can't find that. I had it when we were talking to
When you
Todd. I
talked to
had
Todd
it.
Miller, yeah.
Yeah, I had it, and I can't find it again where I put
I
it.
think
But
it's when you did like 363 and Todd did like the 369 or the right around the
Was he in a younger age division? I'm sure of that.
Well, he's about your age. I think he's 2 or 3 years younger. So he might have been in that 55 to 59
Okay.
age group at the time. So it's possible. But yeah, I don't Yeah, he made it sound like it was the same meet, but I don't know that it was because he's
I
down in Georgia. So I don't know that.
I wasn't in Georgia.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So they competed in the same time frame.
Same time frame. So yeah.
Well, if I would have known Ty was competing, I would have bumped it up a few pounds then.
Yeah, that's what, yeah. Well, and arguably, you predominantly up until you said that one recent one, you did just a lot of bench press meets, right?
Yeah, I did. I did. Well, when I first started out, I was strictly a bench presser, and then I got into the full meets, and then and my last full meet, or actually last competition, would have been in '92, and then I never competed again until 20. I think it's 23 or 24. I competed with my son. He just said, "Hey, Dad, you could still do the national record." And I what? And so he
Yeah.
talked me into doing a meet, and so I went down there, and so then I said, "Okay," but this was it wasn't a tested one. And so it was just an open meet, and I went down there and did it. And then then I said, "You need to go out to Las Vegas at the national bench." And I said, "All
Yeah.
right." So then I started training for that. And then I went out to Las Vegas, and my third attempt, I won the meet. So I was a national champion, but my third attempt, I missed the national record. But I didn't, I got buried basically.
Yeah,
I
I got
didn't have it that day and got buried, and then the next year I was gonna train for, full meets and try to do the national full meet, then that's when I got hurt.
I gotcha. Nice. Not that you got hurt, but that you got those competitive juices going again. That's
I get
awesome.
it every now and then, even right now, I'm starting to come back a little bit, I'm like, "Hmm." So I did
Yeah.
the other day I did a 3:35 after my workout, I went, "Hmm, maybe 65
Maybe.
years old, maybe, I don't know, we'll see."
Yeah, we'll see. No, that's awesome. I don't know that I could even do that. I don't even try and max out much anymore, but in all the conversations I've been having recently with you and Todd Miller and stuff, and knowing you guys are competing and stuff, it's getting me to like start thinking, you know what? Maybe I'll do this and get back into more of a training mode because I've always loved lifting, but sometimes you get in a routine, you do the same thing over and over. If you're training for a meet, you get your wheels moving on things, and you start thinking about things that you did in the past that really worked, and you like. So yeah, it got me going again. So I started a new weight training program about 3-4 weeks ago, and we'll see what happens.
Well, like I said, you got until tomorrow to sign up for our meet, at the USPA meet that we're holding at our school.
I know this. I plan on coming and watching that. I think I'm going to get my oldest daughter to come and watch also, because I think it'd be pretty cool to see that. Because I've at Montrose's auditorium, I've seen quite a few different things because my wife working there. But you remember years ago, Coach, when you guys brought that power team there?
Yep, yep, yep.
You ever heard of those, Coach Whitaker, the power team?
The only thing I've ever heard, some along those lines, when we had Bill Kazmaier come to our middle school, and he rolled a frying pan up in front of the
Okay.
live
Yep,
audience.
Yeah,
yep.
well, that's what these guys kind of did too, but they did all these feats of strength, like ripping phone books, 2 phone books apart, and all these other like curling. I remember the one guy curled like 315 pounds, X amount of times, but they were there for a whole weekend at Montrose. So there's like a Friday night show and a Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. And it was pretty cool to go and watch something like that. I just remember Montrose always having something unique around health, fitness, strength stuff taking place every now and then. That one stuck out in my memory because I was at Bertrand then, and that was pretty cool.
The more I learn about Montrose here, the more I like this place. I might have to visit.
They're your kind of people, Coach Whitaker. I can tell you that.
Yeah. So also put in the comments if you want to see Coach Gillum compete in another meet. Let us know. Or if you want to see a all coaches meet.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's too many young bucks in our association now.
Hey, we
Coach.
got age divisions.
Oh yeah, we can do age divisions. I'm in for that. because chances are I'm the only one in my age bracket. Coach Reinhardt would probably be too, unless we got Todd Miller to come up for the day. Then we could see you guys head to head.
That's what we advertise on the marquee, Coach.
Yeah, that'd be
Miller
fun.
versus Reinhardt. So, Coach, when you are when you're competing for both you and your athletes, what's your philosophy on attempt selection and how you choose your attempts?
Well, again, we were very similar to what Russ did and what he taught me. We generally our opener was usually 30 pounds below, maybe 35, roughly. And then the next attempt, 5 to 10 below based on the person. And then obviously if the kid is, very inexperienced, we might go a little more for his opener. I mean, less on his opener just for the fact of the experience because, again, they usually miss their attempts because of commands and stuff like that. But usually very similar to what Russ did, usually 30 below, 5 below, and then above. I always try to get our kids. I mean, really, I wanted our kids and I try to preach in it, some of them are bullheaded. I wanted them to be going into the meet and you're 8 for 8 going into your final attempt. You know, 8 for 8, don't give any weight away, then your final attempt, that go for it because then, there's nothing more left, give it a shot and go for it and see what happens. But if you're giving weight away early on, obviously that's how I competed too, just for the fact that I couldn't give weight away because I was a god awful deadlifter. So I'd have to get a huge, huge squat, a huge bench, and then pray to hang on for dear life. And that's how I competed. And I never wanted to give weight away. So again, I wanted to be go into it, going 8 for 8. And then from the end, in my case, I had to go 9 for 9 because I was never going to out deadlift anybody. So I had to hope I went 9 for 9. Then the person couldn't catch me from behind. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't.
Interesting.
If I remember correctly, I think Donnie Thompson said the same thing.
Yeah,
he,
pretty
he made
similar. Yeah.
the squat and the bench press were his zones. Then he held on the deadlift
Yep.
all the way to 3,000 pounds.
So you coached some kids that were probably, would you consider genetically elite? Like they had what it took to be a really good lifter.
Oh,
Like
there's
they were
no question
natural.
about it. Yep. No
Yeah.
question.
So your lifters that weren't that way, did you train them any different? Did you find like their mindset was different than the people who genetically had a natural ability to do it?
It was more just constantly talking with them and just, letting them know, "Just stay steady, just stay consistent, and you're gonna make the gains. Just stay consistent, you're gonna make the gains." And just gotta, kinda build them up and build them up and build them up and then, keeping track of what they did, and then they can look back, 1 month and then 2 months and 3 months and just see, "Geez, this is where you were. Now look where you're at now. Just stay the course. Just stay the course." "Well, I'm not making the jumps as big as so and so." Well, you're not, but also that's life. We're not all the same. Some people are gifted in certain things and some aren't. You just stay consistent and you're going to experience the success. Just stay
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah. I understand that.
Preaching that on a daily basis. Keep going. Keep doing what we ask you to do.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
Having a conversation with a kid today about not overtraining himself to the point of a lack of recovery, right? Like everybody wants to jump in and everybody wants to do more, 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 more. And sometimes the answer is you got to do more, but do more of the right things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't on YouTube or it wasn't on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw this last night. Hey, why come we don't do this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All the time. All the time. What do you think, coach, is the hardest thing to coach or teach in the sport of powerlifting?
Hardest thing? Oh boy, the hardest thing. Wow. I don't know if you can narrow that down to one thing.
Well, tell us a couple.
Well, I think the one of the thing is just again is slow them down. I mean, they want to jump up too fast, especially on the squat. They just, and then they get upset with you when you say you're high, you're high. Then they're mad. I'm just telling you what I saw. I think that's the biggest thing. They just want to go too fast. Do it right. Go light and do it right, and then stay consistent. You're going to make the gain. So I think that's the biggest thing with them. And then obviously just because they saw their buddy in the same weight class do this amount of weight doesn't necessarily mean you have to do that weight. Do what you can handle. Do what you can handle.
For sure.
So kind of patience and understanding. Yeah. I think that'll never go away. That'll always be something that's tough. Um, Powerlifting can be mentally taxing, because you've competed, and you've coached it and stuff. How do you coach an athlete through meet day anxiety or a string of missed lifts? I mean, you kind of talked about like with the training, but like, you know, they missed that opening squat or that opening bench. And, you could see they're looking at the numbers and trying to figure out how they're going to make up for that weight. Like, what's your approach with those kids? Like,
Well, again, if you're missing your opener, obviously, I mean, most likely, obviously, I mean, no, there's no fact you opened up too high or you blew the commands. But
yeah.
we always, obviously, you can't go back. And that was the biggest thing is like the kid that'll miss their opener or for whatever reason, and then they want to jump up. I'll get the next one. No, you didn't get the depth, so let's get the depth and worry about your third lift. You got to go back and get it. So we always try to tell them to repeat the same lift. Even if you blew it out of the water, there was a reason. I just because I missed the command, right? But you also don't want to now miss your second attempt because of whatever reason. Get it. So that's the biggest thing with the kid. If they miss their opener, then oh my God, then they're, wow. So you got to obviously talk them through it and make sure they also, if you can get to them, just repeat it. Because I've had kids bomb. I'll get it next lift, and stuff like that. And I go back to them. I missed my opener. You repeated, right? No, I went up, just like, oh God, why, and then before you know it, they bomb out of a meet. I was just like, come on, guys. And again, I mean, you obviously can't play in every place at once, but you try to preach to them, you have to stay in the meet, stay in the meet, stay in the meet. I mean, I had a kid, many, many moons ago at nationals. I mean, he missed his opening dead. I mean, he was winning by far, missed his opening deadlift. And it was just, because of command. And, I told him, obviously repeat it. And I think it was a 3 platform national meet. So I'm somewhere else and I go back and he had jumped and he ends up bombing. And we had actually had points on him back then. You had to declare who your points were on. And, he cost us a national title. We finished second by like 4 points. And, if he would have got his, deadlift, even second one, if he had his opening weight, he still would have won the weight class. And so we would have won it anyways. But because of that, we ended up losing a national title, just things of that nature. So just gotta, the kids just gotta understand.
Yeah, I think sometimes with the kids, like, keep things in perspective, maintain your position for the team, whether it's third place, second place, first place. There's times to go for records, times to go for PRs, but if you're your team's counting on you, it's super important to be strategic with that. And we see that'll happen a lot, unfortunately.
See, the hardest thing, when we were competing nationally was, you had to declare who your points were on. And you got a couple kids in a weight class and you got points on kid A and kid B is having a great day. And then you got to go up to kid B going, I can't have you get this lift because, he's got to beat you
You're gonna
because we
beat
get
them,
more
though.
team points that
Yeah,
way.
because we
Oh,
didn't make you a point getter today.
so when we don't have points on you, so you got to take one for the team. And
But
they're
it's okay if you take second because we don't want the other schools to
yeah,
get these
and their
points.
jaw drops, and then you gotta add in there, "Yeah, but if you do this, we'll do better as a team, plus I'll buy you a large pizza tonight," or something.
Yeah,
Incentivize
I
them.
can see that
Yeah,
happening.
something like that, but that was tough back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Well, and like you had mentioned previously, I remember having to turn in a list of point scorers at state meets, some of the earlier ones at Montrose, because you had to list your 10 people.
Yep,
Well,
yep.
at that point in time, I never had 10 people. So how many ever I had, I just put them on the list. But I knew we weren't. I knew we weren't going to do much as a team. But let's still see what points you can get. But that's cool.
And was that something that
Um,
we ever did in the history of the MHSPLA, or was that just
yeah, we did it in the MHSPLA, especially I'd say 90s through probably the early 2000s. You had to name your
Who
10,
was in store for you?
and
I
now
I
and it
don't
might
remember
have
what
even
year.
went longer. I don't know,
I don't remember what year we changed that. I really don't.
but well, it was probably once we started getting more tech savvy and we've developed a program that sorts it for us. Because you remember the old days of doing the team scoring on a big old dry erase board and in some office.
Well, Chris, I go back to we used to do it on the chalkboard
Well, oh,
and
my
the dry
bad.
erase.
I didn't want to date you too much, coach.
I you
Yeah,
can't.
chalkboard. That's right. Yeah, for sure. You're up, Chris.
so talking about weaknesses, coach, how do you diagnose a lifter's weakness or sticking point, and program accessory work to fix that?
Generally, just by watching their lift, and usually in most cases, with the lift, you can kind of tell 90% of the kids it's going to be lack of triceps, on the bench press, and then with the squat, that's a thing, got some of the kids who are great out of the hole, then other kids just can't, they get three quarters up and they just stop right there. Do you got to do just walkouts or partials with them or stuff like that? And then obviously the deadlift, I mean, that's the one or again, it's philosophical. Some kids are better, conventional style. Some kids are better sumo style, where and, where's their sticking point or are they solid out of the hole and that. So just basically watching the kids and just seeing, what they have.
Yeah, so like as an example, like in bench, because obviously you are a good bencher. Um, like what's one of the things like that you looked for on a kid to know like, all right, he can probably make a 20-pound jump or y-
Well, again, like I said, it depends on where their strength or weakness is. If your kids doesn't have it out of the hole, obviously, really put a lot of emphasis on flat flies and incline flies, and even decline pressing to build the whole chest cavity up and get the explosion. And then, then if in a lot, again, most cases, it's kids lockouts. I was real big in close grip benching because obviously it simulates the bench, the most as anything. But then getting the real, I mean, I'm talking like really narrow, with that for the lockout, for the tries, and then throwing, then, alternating between, like a French press or a tricep extension, like that for the triceps, just depending on, what it is. And then a lot of times with the kids deadlifting, if they don't got a big pull off the floor, I got this from Russ with Husted there. His big thing was they'd put like a platform underneath the bar, obviously, and the plates on the floor. Then you're standing on the platform with your grip, about a 3-inch platform. So it's only like 3 inches, but then you're trying to pull the deadlift the extra 3 inches, and it feels like
yeah,
3 feet.
yeah,
And you're
deficit
pulling that
pull.
out of
Yeah.
there. Do your workout with that. Obviously, it's lighter. And then he was real big on too, and now we used to be too. Is real big on after workout singles. Then pull the platform away and do an after workout single, and it feels like you're not even pulling it. I mean, it's like, man, it's already halfway up before you even started. That was a big thing too, just to get kids past a sticking point and get an explosion off the floor. Because that 3 inches, my God, it's night and day if you've never done it before.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah, you're one of the first people that we've heard. I don't know that anyone has talking about decline bench. So, like, is that something you guys did fairly regular in your program?
With the high school kids, certain ones, just, that, it's one of it's a s I put it in their booklets as a supplement, and I just tell them, if you really truly wanna build a chest cavity, a real chest, there's 3 parts of the chest, you got obviously the upper part for the incline, the cleavage area, then your flat flies for the middle of the chest, and then the lower chest for that, and if you want the big explosion off your chest, the bigger you can get your chest, the bigger explosion you're gonna get, and then
Yeah.
obviously, it ain't gonna sink down as far. Now you don't have to push as far. So a short or stubby arm people like me, you don't got to push it as far. So it obviously helps you in the competition. But again, now we're getting into strictly powerlifting stuff. And again, really we were trying to do the whole thing as a whole for football.
Yeah.
But again, I'll tell the kids, just an added supplement, again, it makes you look good too, build the whole chest cavity.
Yeah, for sure. Have you ever done deficit bench there, Coach Whitaker?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like
Yep.
it's something like a lot of people either don't know or they kind of forget about in, installing it in their programs. But, you know, there used to be like specialty, decline benches, right? That were made, but I feel
We
like
got
with
one.
all the ways that the weight rooms have, went now, like people aren't going to do it unless they have a utility bench that can go to a decline, you know? So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
I had
that's
one of
great.
those.
I used to do a lot of decline bench, like when I was in college. I remember doing that. Made you feel a lot stronger for sure.
Mine is not the best that I can get it to drop down, and sometimes, like, I'm just trying to stay on it and not just slide off the back end. I usually pass on it, or with dumbbells. I think I've done more dumbbell with that
Yeah.
decline than necessarily with the bar. All right,
All right.
where are we at
So
here?
I think I'm up. What do you miss most about your experiences? Obviously you started to compete again, but you said, like you had a 30-year absence of competing. So, and you told us how your son kind of convinced you to kind of do it again. You know, what was it that you experienced 30 years later that kind of like brought you back to, the days when you were competing on a regular basis?
Well, I mean, even in the years where I wasn't competing myself, it was always like, wow, would have, could have, should have, or I just truly wonder. But also, when I took the time off, obviously I took it off. I was starting a family, I was building a house, and I just couldn't do it. There just wasn't time to train and stuff like that. And then I actually had a shoulder surgery at that era too. And there was times I was starting to train to come back to it, and I guess the timing never was right, with the kids, doing the football and then the kids playing and then they're following them through college and stuff like that. And it just never fit right. And then obviously always thought about it. And then I always played around. I always, kept benching, I'd squat once in a while, but just kept benching because I always wanted to make sure I was stronger than any of the kid in the football team because I didn't want them to give me any lip, and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't know, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, one of the kids in the weight room challenged me, whatever like that. And they ended up putting on one of their social media things,
The
about
video, yeah.
my coach can do this or whatever. And I threw up 405, or something like that. And so it's kind of like, man, if I trained, what could I do, and whatever. So,
That
so
video's out there because it resurfaced. I had told you that earlier,
yeah,
Dennis,
you
when we
did, but
talked.
I didn't see it, but
So
yeah.
Whitaker, you got to find this. I think it's like Instagram or Facebook or something, but it's like, can your coach do this? And it's showing Mr. Reinhart benching 405. We need to add it to the end of this podcast so all the viewers can also see this video because I think it's awesome that your kids got involved with that. And yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat experience for you and
Cool.
for your program and everything. Who are, you mentioned Russ. Um, obviously he sounds like he was probably the number one influence. Who are some of the people, that you felt were pretty helpful in those, that transition from 94 to let's say the early 2000s with the MHSPLA? You mentioned Brian Lemons being involved and Noel Dean. Like what type of role and Sutsky, what type of roles is it you guys were just you're organizing at the time? Did the state meet periodically would be on the west side? How did all that come about?
Well, we originally, when we set it up, I think because the majority of the lifters were still from this side of the state. And I think we would go like 2 years over here on what we classified as the east side, and then 1 year over on the west side. So we would kind of bounce it like that. And then we would just kind of take turns in essence, who wanted it. And then, if you didn't have a state meet, you would run a regional meet, and there seemed to be, a regional qualifier, just about every weekend at least. So if kids, wanted to do it.
So how
Yeah,
did the qualifying totals come into play? Because you guys would have established that.
yeah, we took that percentages off what the state meet totals were, and I can't remember the first year that we actually used that for a qualifying total, because it used to be you had to be the top 3 of your weight class. You were automatically qualified, and for each of the regional qualifiers, and eventually you went with the qualifying total, and it was supposed to be a percentage of what was done at the state meet, and that was supposed to change periodically, and and that's how it kind of was going, or how it's
Yeah,
kind of how we did it.
sure. I can't remember. I want to think it was right around 97. I think that was the first like state meet I ever went to. Bundle hosted it. Do you remember that?
97. Well, I'm sure. I mean, yeah.
It probably was right after Noel Dean had left and Setsky probably had taken over, but like I remember that meet like starting at like 8 or 9 in the morning, and we
Yeah.
were there till like frickin' midnight.
Well, yeah, I mean, Bendel had a very small gym.
Small gym, it was
And
crazy. They
I
had platforms set up in their cafeteria.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yep,
mean, and so for me, that's like my first major meet that I went to as a coach because I had coached with Jeff Duncan at Bentley, and so we were kind of trying to get Bentley kids strong because we competed against Montrose and in sports and in football. And I just remember going there, and that was like my experience. And I'm just like, holy smokes! I remember going, man, if every meet lasts this long, man, I don't know that I want to go to too many of these because I mean it was a long day. I
there were
did
some
not
long days.
anticipate it was going to be like that. And so, I mean, the transition over the years, because, now I've been doing this for 30 years, it's for those that think our meets are long now, it could be worse.
And
It'd
then,
be a lot
things have
worse.
changed too, because we used to do, even for the state meet, like you would go to a regional site and weigh in for the state meet at a regional site, and held a
Mhm.
regional. Then you would send those results into whoever's hosting the state meet, and that. And then there was like home weigh-ins for regional meets, like am I supposed to do for wrestling and different things, just to save the chaos of meet morning and actually weighing in. And then
Yeah.
we've also done it the old-fashioned way where you weighed in, but you could weigh in the night before, and then some people come in to weigh in. I mean, things have changed a lot back and forth over the years.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's one thing I've always grown to appreciate. Like, if, people don't think that things are going as well as they could, ideas and suggestions are made, and then enough people get on board with it. And I think the association has been willing over the years, starting back with you guys, like to make those changes when necessary. And it made, I think, the organization stronger in the long run. But yeah, it's way different from 1997 at Bundle High School to just finish in 2026 at Lake Orion because, we were not there till midnight this year. That's a fact.
No, we were eating pizza at that sick pizza place.
Yeah, 6 p.m. we were eating
Yeah.
pizza in a restaurant after cleaning up. That's how quick it went. So, all right, awesome. You
Yeah.
ready for this, Coach? Speed round.
VTech
Are you
questions.
talking to me? Oh,
I'm
sorry.
talking to Whitaker. We're going to end
Okay.
you. We're going to start it. So,
Get ready.
All right, what do we
Gotta get
got?
back underneath the bar in 30 seconds, coach. These are quick, rapid fire. Hit us with your answer that comes right to the top of your head. What's your favorite lift? Squat, bench, press, deadlift.
Bench.
are you a low bar or high bar squat?
High.
Sumo or conventional deadlift.
Sumo.
Do you prefer a max PR or a rep PR?
Depending on what we're doing it for.
Okay. Bench.
No, but I mean, what are we lifting for? Is this for football? Is this for powerlifting? What is it for?
Well, powerlifting.
Max.
All right. Football, I'm gonna guess rep.
Eh, possibly both.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Your best accessory exercise for the squat.
Leg press.
Best accessory exercise for the bench press.
Flat flies.
And your best accessory exercise for the deadlift.
Off the platform. Elevated raised platform.
Good. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up with a few other questions. Kind of go down memory lane a little bit. What are your fondest memories of your experience with the Michigan High School Powerlifting Association?
I think just seeing kids getting a weight that they never felt possible and how they react once they pull it or squat it or whatever it might be, and they come off the platform and they're jumping into teammates' arms or whomever it might be, just in general, just celebrating that they got that lift. It may have been a massive lift or it may have just been, whatever, something light, but it was something that was massive for that person.
Okay, good.
And what's one piece of advice that you would give another coach looking to start or build a powerlifting program?
Just stay consistent in your beliefs and what you're doing and don't go away from it.
The way.
Alright. Is there any specific people over the years through Montrose that you'd like to give a shout out to? Because they helped you in running meets, they helped you in training your athletes, like assistant coaches and such.
Oh man, I've had numerous people over the years just help out. I mean, it can be the simplest as transporting kids to national meets. I mean, we'd go to a national meet and we'd rent a motorhome and pile 14 kids into the motorhome and go. I had my good buddy of mine, Gary Wilson, who did coach, at the school or anything like that, but he would take time off work to help drive the vehicles for us, with us and stuff like that. Had numerous coaches over the years. I've had, like Craig Dustramp, who's been with me ever since I came to Montrose. Coaching, he's been there and he still is. John Deem is right there with us. I can go to my school superintendent, who started out as he's I don't know 5 6 years old and has worked his way up the thing because being a player for me, then coach with me, and I'm a teacher and athletic director, principal, and always my superintendent. Over the years, Dr. Lyndon Moore. So there's numerous people like that. I mean, there's so many I couldn't start to name, but there was just a few. And obviously, I owe a great deal of everything I've done, to the late Tim Stuyvesant and the late Russ Husted. They were probably the two biggest inspirations that I had. Tim right when I was still in high school, then obviously Russ when I was student teaching. They were the two of the biggest ones.
Awesome.
So, Coach, before I kick it to Coach Gillum for any final comments or questions from him, is there anything that we haven't discussed that you'd like to share with our audience?
Wow, I think we've covered the whole gamut of things. I mean, there's probably just some things I probably got in my filing cabinet. If I started digging through it, I could, bring that up, but that could be at a different time or whatever. But especially some of the original records and of that sort of stuff. But a whole gamut of things, man. I don't know if there's anything more out there.
Okay. Well, we would definitely can have you back on for another episode.
Yeah,
Uh,
honestly, we're gonna do some things on like the art of bench press and stuff. That would you like to join us for that episode later on this summer?
And I just say, get the damn weight up.
Yeah, but you obviously you're a strong guy in the bench. I would say you know some things, and it would be good to have like a panel of guys to discuss
Well,
those
I,
things.
I was genetically gifted with short arms.
Yeah, but just like the equipment, if you don't know how to use it, coach, it doesn't matter.
Nah, that's true.
uh, well, Coach Gillum, Actually, before I kick to Coach Gillum, Coach, do you have any public facing social media that you like to share if like people want to follow you or anything like that?
I don't do social media. I'm old school.
The
If
internet just lied to me, Gillum, and said that he
y
had a Instagram page.
Yeah, probably
Well,
probably might have my son or whatever, but I don't have Instagram or any of those things. If somebody wants anything from me, you can give them out my phone number or contact the school, and I'm there. That's my social media right there.
yeah,
Yeah. All
you're
right.
better off going into Montrose schools and going by the gym and you'll or the weight room, and his office is right there. That's
Yeah, there
most
you
likely
are.
where you'll find him. And back in the day, Coach Whitaker, you wouldn't believe this. This guy would be mowing and lining his own football field a lot,
Mhm.
you know. But I
That I
I hear
did.
you guys have turf now, right?
We got a brand new stadium. It's beautiful. It really is.
Well, so this is like the third expansion that I'm aware of since, because you guys got the outdoor stuff done, like the walk-in entrance done, not probably like 10 or 15 years ago, right?
About 12, yeah,
Yeah,
2012. Then we had
and
one in
so
'98, so that's the third one.
yeah, so they take their
W
football there serious, and
We're
rightfully
actually getting
so.
an addition, this one too, part of the we got the football stadium. We're also getting an addition to the wrestling room and the weight room. It's actually getting
Nice.
increased. So I plus many other things that they did, but those are 3 of the ones that, that we enjoy or will be
Yeah,
enjoying.
and for a small school, Coach Whitaker, great facilities. It's a great sports town. It's a blue collar town. So like we're the epitome of football for a lot of years and still are consistently winning. And you guys, I can still remember being a younger guy in college, and you probably for another time. You remember your was it semifinal game? I want to think, or was it finals? I can't remember when you guys played. Um, I want to
Orchard Lake
think
St. Mary's.
Orchard Lake St. Mary.
Yep, yep.
So
That was '94.
that was 94. And
94, that was
so,
in a war. We lost 13-7 to them. That was a great team. And yeah, we had our opportunities, didn't do it. That was back in the era when we had that 80 game winning streak in the regular season. We had won 80
yeah,
straight.
yeah, I remember that.
Damn that
Yeah.
Orchard Lake St. Mary's. That's who
That
got
that's
us.
who Coach Whitaker's team lost to in the finals this year, Coach, for Division
Yeah,
Two.
yeah. Well, I know I get it, man. Ugh.
It's crazy. Well, thank you for being with us, Coach Reinhardt. Really appreciate it. Yeah, any files you can find, you just somehow figure out a way to get them to me.
Well, if
Uh,
you're gonna make it up to that meet on the 28th, I could probably have something by then.
that sounds great. I do plan on being there. Yeah, and we can get those files, and however we need to do, we'll get them digitized and get them on our website so that everybody can have it. We're just trying to make everybody aware of the history of the organization because there's so many new people and new faces in it. Their memories only go back maybe 10 years, so they don't know anything different than there's always been JV women and varsity women. They don't know anything about the past. That's why we're doing this, is to educate them on where our association started and how it got through the transitions to where it is now. So thank you for being with us. Appreciate it.
I thank you much.
This has been another episode of The Platform, where the stories weigh a ton.
Bars chalked up, clocks counting down. Another early morning in a small town gym right now. Steel on sleeves, heart in your hands. Every rep, every meet, building Michigan's strongest plans. Welcome to the platform. is the platform. Bus rides, late nights, singles in the duffel bag. White lights, red lights, every call, every flag. From the first warm up to that last grind set. We talk chalk, talk nerves, talk the best you haven't met yet. Welcome to the platform, where the stories weigh a ton. Squat, bench, dead, we rise as one. Michigan's lifters, this is our home. Turn it up, feel that form. This is the From the UP down to the lakeshore, every rock's a little more war. But you're never walking in alone. You've got a crew in your head for. Welcome to the